After a year and a half, I finally got to drive the Acura TLX Type S for 1 week. It took a long time, but I've come to realize a few things about this car and why I was wrong. So, let's roll! Last year, I got a chance to drag race the TLX Type S. A gentleman from Instagram reached out, we talked, we arranged a couple of drag races. Technically, I was the first one in Canada and United States to drag race the car, which I think is probably one reason why Acura didn't give me this car, because it kind of embarrassed itself on my channel. That's not my fault, but I had to show my viewers what the car was capable. In fact, unfortunately, the owner of the car did not come back for another race. I could see his face after the first drag race we did against the Audi S4, because somehow he was misled from another video on YouTube that the Audi S4 was slower than the Type S, which in my opinion, it is a bit silly to think about when you look at the specs on the book, on paper. The TLX Type S could not win against the Audi S4. It is heavier, it doesn't make the same horsepower, and we know the Germans lie all the time. And while the TLX Type S was so much heavier than that car, although they're both all-wheel drive. But he had come with the opinion that he was going to take in the Audi S4 and the G70, and we had planned to do other drag races, but he decided not to come. And probably that was another reason why Acura said no to giving me one, but somehow they caved and they gave me one this week after a year and a half. But anyhow, today I want to talk about some of the things that I love about this car and why I still think it is a great daily for what you pay. Now, if you had to compare it to the Kia Stinger, this is definitely not the best value. But then, do you like the Kia Stinger? Would you want to get a Kia? That's probably up to you. But the beautiful thing is, we have to say this for Acura, is the fact that they gave us a performance sedan. As we know, sedans don't do well in this market. Everybody's running behind three-row SUVs or big SUVs. But in this case, the TLX Type S is here to stay. Unlike the Kia Stinger. The back side of this car is my favorite thing. First, we got the quad exhaust tips, the lip at the top, that little spoiler, which I think it is offered in the TLX, normal TLX, and then we have the Type S badge, we got the diffuser. This looks far better than my IS 500 in my books, because it's just more aggressive, and you can tell that this is a TLX Type S on the road, unlike the IS 500, which is pretty hard to tell. The stance of this thing is absolutely amazing. I love how it looks. I don't like the white color on this. For me, that tiger eye, whatever that gold color is, would be my choice. Or maybe there's gonna be a PMC edition, the blue version and red. That looks sexy as hell. The wheels are fantastic in this car. It has a presence, and here's the interesting part. I actually parked this right beside a 5 Series, and it was almost the same size. And if you had to look at this versus, for example, the Audi S4, the S4 looks like a Mini Cooper in front of the TLX Type S, which again, it just shows that this thing does have quite a lot to offer. Like, for example, space. You get amazing trunk space in this thing. Like, let's open it up, for example, so I can give you a better idea. And look at that. I got all my equipment there, and you still have space, which, again, for a day-to-day, that is so important. And then we jump into the second row, which for someone my height, it is so easy to sit in this thing here. Absolutely love the interior, beautiful leather, the suede center, the beautiful ELS audio system, as you can see, beautiful audio system, very clear, love that. But the way that this thing looks on the road, in my books, just justifies the fact that this is not that fast. Now, for someone that drag races cars quite a lot, I also do reviews, it's a hard one to say because, again, this thing hasn't won against any other competitor. Now, but it does offer a lot. Like the Kia Stinger starts at about $58,000, it starts at about $62,000. And it's not far off. If you're looking at the Audi S4, you're looking at about 80 grand or so. This offers so much. It has quite an amazing interior. the seats over here, the center console. Not the biggest fan of the infotainment display because it is so far off and it's not touch screen and it's not really useful in some ways. It takes a while to get used to it. The steering wheel though is fantastic. Love the actual stitching, the Type S badge at the bottom. Like Acura did some work on this car. Unlike Lexus, which really just slapped a V8, Acura did some work. They put some work on this thing. They didn't just make a TL, for example, or a TLX without proper performance numbers to back it. I know it's not the fastest thing out there, but in my books, it's really a perfect day-to-day car. And having that all-wheel drive system for Canada just complements this car perfectly. The IS 500 didn't even have an all-wheel drive system, which in wintertime wouldn't be the best car if you wanted to drive. I'm sure with winter tires you'd be okay, but this thing would not get stuck as the IS 500. And that's what I love about this thing. And if you're looking at the Germans, the Audi S4 is going to cost you an arm and a leg compared to this. The BMW 3 Series, the same thing. The M340i, it is pretty expensive. Then you get the Mercedes C-Class as well, the C43, another car which you're looking about $80,000 Canadian or so. And even if you live in the US, you're still going to pay a lot more. So this, in some ways, could be the second best option after the Kia Stinger. Another thing that I like about this car is the ride quality. It's comfortable, it's spacious. For someone my height, I just chill like this. I'm 6'2", I feel comfortable in this car. I feel like I have more room than I deserve in some ways. And it's probably the roomiest out of all the sedans that compare to this technically. The Stinger might be a little bit closer to this, but for me, as a driver in the front, feels quite comfortable. The suspension setup is brilliant for this car. Not the performance side as much, but mostly for day-to-day. It's not too harsh on the road. The steering is very, very good. The brakes are fantastic. We got the 4-piston in the front, Brembo single in the back. For the cost, you're getting so much. The interior, specifically the driver's cockpit, I love the cluster that is sort of like digital and analog. I know everyone is obsessed now with just getting bigger screens in front of you. Disappointing part, you don't get a heads-up display. Maybe this package is missing because I couldn't find it as an option anywhere else. Visibility in this car all around is fantastic. It's very good because it's so roomy on the inside. The second row, the front area over here is very good. I keep the transmission in sport mode all the time because I feel like it works better. And then we'll talk about all the tech features that it offers. We got ventilated seats, heated seats, wireless charging pads, Apple and Android connectivity, 360 camera, all the things that you need in 2022. The seats are comfortable. The audio system from ELS is perfect. It's so good as a package. We got a sunroof as well. On the outside is a good looking car. On the inside, it feels premium. Everything you touch, the dashboard has the nice leather. We got the red stitching, which matches the seats as well. The steering wheel, very grippy. The stitching all around the steering wheel. We got the Type S badge. We got a flat button. The little details. When you start it up, when you turn it off, it says a Type S. Like, there's all the little things that make this very different, for example, from a normal TLX, like an A-Spec. Unlike the IS 500 that I had, was pretty, well, bland, would say. Wasn't as exciting. This, on the other hand, looks good. It shows that it's a performance vehicle. Yes, it might not be a sleeper, because technically a sleeper is something that doesn't look like it's fast, but it's really fast when you put it on the road. But to me, it ticks all the boxes for the price. The performance aspect can be fixed. The beautiful thing is that I've had a gentleman on my channel who has a red one, and he changed recently the exhaust. And out of that V6 with that different exhaust, you can hear music. It sounds really good. What that basically means is that eventually tuners are going to bring something out to make this as competitive as possible. Because at this level, it's not quite there, let's just say it that way. But to me, now that I've driven it, I've had it for a week, I could see myself owning one potentially while I have something else that will excite me, something faster. And the price in here allows you that, because you can get something else that is faster than this, but have this as your day-to-day. You get space in the trunk, you get all-wheel drive system for winter. And also, let's talk about another hard topic, reliability. Because it's an Acura, it should do well. It has a good track record as a brand. Therefore, in the long run, for people that keep these cars for 50 years, well, it's going to do well. That was just a railway. We jumped on it, it's smooth. Road noise, not so much. You don't hear as much, but it just does well. There are some disappointing parts of it. Like, I want to put this in sport. Hold to put it in Sport Plus transmission. Like, pop, pop, pop. The exhaust sounds at the back. Like, it goes. It's not extremely fast. It doesn't excite you, but it's not boring. You should be able to overtake people on a highway with this without being embarrassed. So it's not bad. It's not bad. It can be fixed. That engine can be fixed. There's going to be tuners out there that can make, maybe, hopefully, this needs at least 400 horsepower, hopefully 450. Let's just be optimistic in this case. I just don't like a few things about this. So let's talk about that. First of all, the infotainment display. It is probably the worst I have used in any car. Why? It doesn't have a touch screen. It's so far away from me. The center here, there's so many buttons. I don't hate buttons, but there's just like too much. My wife jumped into it and she's like, there's too much going on here. I'm getting all confused and there's like too many things at the same time. The trackpad in the center is the most annoying thing. It's so hard to get used to it. Maybe if you have it after a year, you get used to it. Some people say that they've gotten used to it. I don't like it as much. But I do appreciate the fact that it's not touchscreen in some ways, because it doesn't leave as many fingerprints on the screen, so you don't have to clean it as often. So that, I appreciate that fact. Everything else is okay. The fuel efficiency might not be the best on this, because I think, well, it's heavy. So you're squeezing a lot of juice out of that engine to pull the weight. This feels like a bloated human. What I mean with that, imagine when you eat some foods and they just make you feel bloated all the time. This car feels like that when you drive it. And in Dynamic Plus, I noticed this that also annoyed very much. So when you put it in sport mode, you have it in Dynamic Plus, you put your foot down and you're doing, let's say, 80 kilometers. Hear this. It takes so long for the transmission to shift. Like, you put your foot down, it stays in lower gear at high RPM for far too long. And the way it downshift, it feels like the car is in pain. Downshift, you're gonna blow up the engine. In traffic, and if you're trying to overtake someone, I drove downtown Toronto, and it's like, you put your foot down, okay, you're doing speed limit here, it's like 80. It stays at 4,000 RPM in the same gear, which is good for rollers, but it feels like the car is in pain constantly. And then downshift, it revs too high. It revs too high. It's not the smoothest. Upshift. Why are you downshifting? Why are you downshifting? Like, there you go. It's like, it keeps it so high. I hate that. Like, it makes it annoying. That's one thing. That to me really annoys me sometimes. And I'm like, just don't want to drive this thing. But other than that, everything else is, well, let's just say it's okay. For the price, we have to think about that because it justifies the price. Come on, downshift. It's nice in corners. It gets glued when you go into a sharp corner, and like you expect it to like drift, but nope. This thing, it takes the corners nicely. The super handling all-wheel drive from Acura does a fine job. Let's do a quick launch control. Come on, rev. When you put in a launch control, it revs low. Like, that's another thing too, that it needs some work on it. Downshift into manual. No, I don't want you to go into third gear. Come on. It won't allow it to go into full manual mode. It got close to the red line, which is good. When he goes like little bit higher than the 6,000 RPM, it just shifts for you. Maybe if I turn the traction off completely, maybe it'll do something. I have it in manual mode, but it won't keep you in manual mode. Yeah, I want to shift myself. What's the point of having those are some of the things that this car really, I don't like that. I like to have some sort of control over the transmission. I can't figure out, like, I have it in sport transmission. You downshift, and then when it needs to go into the proper gear, we'll just do it. I just realized this thing has 5,578 kilometers. That's not bad. It's broken in. 5,000 RPM. It feels like the engine is going to blow up. Downshift or upshift. Find the right gear. Nope. That's what pisses me off with this car. And I have to change it back into normal mode because it's going to drive me crazy. Okay, just leave it in normal mode. But other than that, it's an okay car. It's an okay car. In my book says Kia Stinger this, and then the rest of them for the price. But it's okay.